Hey folks, greetings. This is Body Culinary. Who does not love a good challenge? So, I'm not really one for the New Year's resolutions, and Thanksgiving is every day, right? Especially when it comes to this body temple. So, an effort, and no, yeah, good to see you, neighbor. So, yeah. In this challenge, I'm challenging you, and you can, I do this challenge all the time. This is so much fun. But how many things that are whole living unprocessed that you enjoy can you get for $25, and how many things can you do with it? So I just got back from the farmers market. I'm always excited, super excited when I come back from the farmers market, and I had a budget of $25. So keep in mind, I'm in Central America, so some of the things may vary in terms of what's available to you, and I'll show you a couple of things that I got locally that are in season. So there are a few principles that I go by and that I live by, and one of them is that if you get the foods that are in season and locally, the taste is going to be a lot better, the flavor is going to be a lot better, and just as important, the cost is going to be lower, right, when the food is in season. Kind of like if you think of incorporating in the dead of winter some pineapple from another country. You got to pay more for that stuff. So do take advantage. For my folks that are in the colder temperatures in the north, where I'm from originally, you have beautiful stone fruit that's there. You have access to really good, beautiful stone fruit and such a variety of apples. Like, I really appreciate the whole such a wide variety of apples from the food co-op. Shout out to the Park Slope Food Co-op out there in Brooklyn, New York. So let's dive into what I got for $25. Another note, be careful if you're in the States, but I am the person when I go to the market and there are loads of, let's say, well, I can see the bananas and the plantains. The farmers will sometimes bring the whole big bunch of plantains, and sometimes they may use one knife for everything. It may not be as clean, or they may have another standard for cleanliness. So I will bring my own knife with the cover. And if you're in the States and you constantly have to go through buildings with security, you may not be able to bring that in there. So this is one where you can hook. You don't have to go out and spend a whole lot of money, but this is one that I bought because it can hook and break the bananas and the plantains right off of the stem. So that being said, the other thing is that I make an effort to use recyclable bags to cut down on plastic and clutter and critters. But from time to time, if you have a lot of stuff and you're on your own carrying all this stuff, you may need to take a plastic bag from the farmer so as not to cause a big ruckus. So I encourage you to reuse plastic bags. And if somebody uses for them plastic bags, I can tie them up so my food is spill proof, being a lot of my food does have water in it. And I can use them for lining the garbage can, lining the juicer. I will look for any excuse to recycle the bags so that the birds are not choking on them in the environment. So that being said, let's see what I got for $25. So I got some local corn, right? And you got to be careful here with the corn. Anyway, you want to be careful with the quality of the corn that you're getting. Get the best too. Don't freak yourself out. Get the best of what's available to you. I know for me, and this is just a guideline, I make an effort to get everything fresh, whole, and living with the natural living water intact and the fiber intact. So there are some farmers who cannot pay for the chemicals and for the pesticides. So that's a good thing for us. And so it's a good incentive to communicate with your local farmers and the people at your food co-op, right? For example, the food co-op, which I love, folks, join a food co-op. It is so worth it. So the food co-op that I shopped at, they would label where all the different foods were coming from, how many miles of a distance if the foods were coming from within 200 miles. If they would label if the produce was conventionally grown, or if it was organically grown, the price per pound. Also, there was a book that let you know about different pesticides that anybody in the co-op could go up to and look into. What else? I remember once in the food co-op, I was looking for grapes. I'm like, grapes should be in season. And I was looking for grapes, and we didn't sell grapes because the grape workers were not being paid fair wages. So that's one of the benefits of shopping inside of a food co-op, right? So some other things that I got today, this is something that's local mangosteen. Oh my gosh, these are so delicious. This is one of those treats. And the only way I've seen this in the States is frozen. Yeah, that's the only way I've seen it frozen. And there's some things like cashew fruits or certain fruits that are perishable that you may only be able to get in the environment. So I might have to come on down here for a visit. So I got some delicious mangosteen. These are so delicious. And actually, when you open these up, these can stain your clothes almost like the same color as my shirt. So there's certain foods you want to be very careful of, even like aloe that can really make quite a stain on your clothing, and then you can't get it out, right? It'll be really hard to get it out. So I got some local limes from a farmer. She's hooked me up with several things. Again, more incentive to create some kind of a relationship and really show I'm genuinely interested in the food. But when you speak to your farmers, you'll get good prices, or they may put things aside for you. So these are local limes. These have a lot of seeds in them, and the inside will look like this orangey color. Many folks in the Caribbean will call these Jamaican limes. So these the flavor tastes different than the limes that you'll find in states that sometimes are much more green and don't have any seeds inside of them. So I got 24 limes for, I think, $1. 24 local limes. And when they're not in season, the price can go up. So I got about a couple of pounds of carrots for like $1.50. I think 2 pounds of carrots. I've got 10 bananas for 50 cents. I got a really good deal, maybe about 75 cents per pound on these plum tomatoes. And the woman who's really, really nice, she speaks mostly Spanish. I'll practice my Spanish, and she's just really pleasant. She just threw in and gave me another bag of tomatoes. This is a really beautiful pineapple, and I was amazed to learn about there's so many different types of pineapple. Shout out to Chef India Camille, my dear friend sister India Camille, who showed me how to pick a really good pineapple, and I'm one for always smelling the food, right? So she showed me how to pick the ripe and sweet pineapple. Then there was one farmer that I got several things from. So our garden is starting all over again. So there are times where you'll need to rotate. I don't have a big garden space, so you will supplement with things from either you share if a neighbor's growing something or your local farmers, most likely. So, oh my gosh, there's one farm. Oh my gosh, this man and his family, they come and they bring some beautiful greens, right? Fresh basil. He gave me dill. He gave me cucumbers. He threw in another bag of cucumbers. These cucumbers grown locally, they're not as big and they may not be as pretty, but they don't have the wax on them, right? So again, while I'll encourage you to develop a relationship and an interest in the farmer that's growing your food, because then sometimes they can perhaps put order things aside for you. And then many things that I use over and over again as staples. So again, I don't know if I mentioned, but this is one of my tools that I'll use to scrape out coconut meat, or you can use like Grandma Lou, a small paring knife, and using, a cloth in your hands so you don't cut yourself. And then this is a knife, again, that I'll take to cut off my bananas and stuff, because I'm not really with the cross-contamination thing. You want to be as clean as you can when it comes to bacteria in your food. So one farm, I got dill, fresh dill, basil. The same farmer gave me the eggplants and the tomatoes, and some local kale. And then sometimes they'll throw in more stuff in order to get rid of it rather than go to waste. And I'll eat it. And then I also, oh my gosh, I got beautiful fresh arugula from him. And then I had someone chop some fresh sugar cane, right? Big difference from eating white refined sugar. Actually, fresh sugar cane, right? And again, bring your knife. So you don't got folks putting something on some pig knuckles and then taking the same knife and then putting on your food, or learn how to chop it yourself, which is actually humbling. But the fresh sugar cane is actually super healthy. So when this is processed, and then also if you look back at one of the older videos that I did on the agricultural expo that I went to, there was a whole display, right? Because one of the exports here is sugar cane. So I got to see the whole sugar cane production and a lot of the different products that come from the sugar cane. But this is mostly water, and it's very healthy. And do you know that this sugar cane, the fiber, will clean your teeth squeaky clean just in eating it, right? It's so good. And you get a lot of fiber. And the fiber, your teeth will be squeaky clean from sugar cane. So all that to demonstrate, there's a huge dramatic difference between whole, fresh, living, unprocessed foods and refined foods. It's not the same. is there may be some trace elements, but there's so much information that you're missing when you're not eating the food fresh. Mm. So much water and juice in here. Mm. Um, Excuse me. So I got sugar cane, all of this sugar cane, and I'm growing some sugar cane. I just learned something else about the sugar cane that I'm growing out in the yard. I got a piece from a neighbor, but that was all. Let's say that was like $1 US for all that sugar cane, and that's still enough that can be profitable for the other folks that are selling it. And just a couple of herbs that I got today. These I do have the seeds to grow. These is valerian, right? Stevia. I do have the seeds so I can grow this. Peppermint. I do have the seeds to grow this. So as far as gardening, anything that I can eat, those are things that I will strive to grow. And I did treat myself. Some of the more expensive items on your list can be sunflower seeds. It can be really expensive too because we have a tendency to just snack on these, and sometimes it can be a lot of fat. So I encourage you to use these in a dish or mix them with something else so we're not sitting and scarfing down too much nuts and seeds, because I know I can put on a lot of weight very, very easily. And we make sure we're digesting these properly. And if you don't soak them or eat them with other things, sometimes you can have a tendency to bloat, right? For some people also, the fresh living food will push older stuff out of your system. So sometimes you can find yourself having breakouts either from the food pushing things out of your system or just having too much fats, too much intake of fats at one time. So I got valerian root is also good for headaches. Stevia is a natural sweetener. The artificial stevia inside of the store can have a tendency to have quite an aftertaste that's not too pleasant. But when you're using the dried herbs and you see the fresh herbs, the fresh peppermint and mint, you can compare and taste them for yourself. Sometimes like it's almost no comparison. But the food also has a growing season, right? And then the tree needs to take time to recuperate, right? So I got these 10 bananas, 20 limes, tres aguacates of avocados, and there are different varieties of the avocados. Some of these are so rich, they remind me of like a roti, literally like a roti. Oh, and I did get a small watermelon. I'm lucky if I paid $1.25 for a watermelon. The mangosteen, eggplant, fresh corn, a couple of pounds of carrots, dill, basil, arugula, tomatoes, cucumbers, pineapple, fresh young coconut meat, and also sugar cane. All of that was $25. So when I'm saying whole, fresh, unprocessed foods, this is what I'm talking about. This is the picture that I want to paint. Then when you add your creativity and you just invest in some just basic knowledge for how to get more things like protein, like you see here, usually I'll have some kind of protein, like I'm sprouting one of my favorite sprouts right here. This is chock full of protein. So I don't need to, as I did many years ago, I don't need to eat processed bars and stuff, which quite often a lot of the granola bars and a lot of granola can actually be junk food, right? And sometimes you can't understand why maybe your weight is not balancing out, right? These foods will behave differently in the body because they're fresh, whole, and living. It's a big distinction between that and something that's been processed to be able to sit on a shelf indefinitely. So I like to think and use your common sense. I like to think of investing in the food or even my juicer or my tools as healthcare, in addition to having emergency medical care. But I'd rather spend the time and the money on my fresh food. And here I spent $25. Some people spend $25. I don't even know what cigarettes cost. I could have swore I heard that back in the day, a year or two ago, that cigarettes were $10. Alcohol is expensive. Renting Netflix, what people pay in terms of late fees for videos or for the library. There's so many places where, we just throw $25 in the garbage, and this is all fresh, unprocessed foods. So the other part that's going to come in is how you store your food, preparing things, and learn how to stagger dishes, because there's some things you can eat fresh there, and there's some things that may last you for a couple of days. But with whole, fresh, living foods, this is not meant to sit indefinitely in the refrigerator or the freezer, right? That's why this is going to be medicine inside of the food. So this is exciting to me. You're welcome to come into the food prep area and into the garden. Please subscribe to the channel, Body Culinary here on YouTube. You can follow what I'm doing in the garden and with the food on Instagram, also on Facebook. I have something on Snapchat. I don't do Snapchat too much, but some people in another younger crowd may have questions on Snapchat. So this is the Thanksgiving, giving thanks to this precious one and only body temple that we have. We're not going to get another one. I've had wealthy clients that joke and say, well, I'll just get a new leg or a new hip. It's not worth the pain. I mean, I've seen so many clients that are in so much pain. The prevention is better than cure. And then also I'd have to say, as someone, that's going on 5 decades, I write off a lot of my habits. My habits are what saved me. I could very easily be overweight. I'm a big eater. I have a lot of flavor in my family from the Southern, Black American, and the Bayesian side. We're big eaters. And also, a lot of us eat out of stress and when we're triggered, and eat quite often on an automatic pilot and use food to process of a lot of our emotions. The wonderful thing with the living foods is that you'll get all these signals that I have literally had enough food. So it's something that can stop you in your tracks, and you can notice that it's not the physical food I'm looking for. Right now, there's some other emotions that are coming up that need to be, I need to sit with and I need to process. So that's a little sneak peek into some of the content that's going to be coming up that I'm really, really passionate about, because many of us are eating ourselves to the point of deformity, and the states of mind that we're in when we're eating. I was sharing this with one of my dear friends, Chef India, that emotional calcification. Let's go with me here. That the emotions and the state of mind that we're in when we're eating, a lot of times those emotions will become, if we're eating very clogging and heavy foods, those states of mind will become locked into the body, and then eventually they will manifest as adipose tissue or fatty tissue around the waistline, clogging the arteries. I mean, the nutrients that get broken down in the body have to travel to the brain, right? So there's a disconnect because of the substances that we're eating that are masquerading as food, in addition to the pace that we're moving at, right? Many of us not preparing our own food. So this does take something, but it doesn't have to be any more time that you would put in to prepare animal foods or flesh foods. Yes, I ate animal foods. I grew up on them, gave them up after high school. And then I did a second stint when I got into bodybuilding and fitness. And then intuitively, I just felt like I didn't want to eat any meat. I was scared that I would become emaciated. But yeah, I didn't, because I make sure I get enough calories. I have quite a bit of variety, as you can see, right? It's a journey. And then there are other things that also I can focus on to nourish myself other than the physical food. But this food is highly nutrient dense. So I think it's really, the mom and as a strategist, and always looking at the best way to motivate someone to do something, because that's more effective and less draining than try to beat somebody over the head to do something. Motivation has come over the years with my family in terms of being creative and giving them beautiful cakes and pies and finding other ways to present the food. And then sometimes it's really, really fast. I can just cut this stuff up and eat it. So then learning about some of the food combinations and, all of that stuff is fun. And I find it really exciting. So you can find, for folks that have been asking, what do I eat in a day? Some of those videos are coming. But there is a way that I communicate that's easy for me, which I find is very visual and tactile, that you can touch it and it's tangible. But I have laid out exactly what I'm doing, which I feel is like simple and colorful. I've added lots of colorful pictures so people can see, so that with the intention of shortening your learning curve, so it doesn't have to take you 20 years to make changes to your food. And it's not necessarily about the labels. The quote unquote labels can give you distinction, so that you maybe understand the difference between a vegan, vegetarian, lacto-vegetarian, lacto-ovo. That's a whole nother video that we uploaded on the Black Raw Vegan Foods and Fitness on Facebook. That was a whole video that we did. But other than making the distinctions, it's more about the behavior, I would say, and the results. That's what's the most important. Everybody, no matter what label you call yourself, can benefit from eating more whole, fresh, living foods. And it is such a relief to not have to diet. That is a relief. Then I can take that mental energy and I can put that towards something else rather than thinking of dieting and obsessing over food. Now I can focus on the garden, other creative endeavors. Those are things that will contribute greatly to us being present and responsible, enjoying the food, but being responsible for what it is that we're putting into our mouths. I hope this is helpful. You can download and you can get the book that I've laid everything out for you that I'm doing. If you're a mother, if you work, I've lived out of a suitcase for many years. You can get the book Whole Living Foods in the Hood, Part 1, with menus to fit your budget. So you can see different shops and different budgets that I've done. And what kind of menus can you create from all of this food that you have here so that things are not going to waste, and how I've been carrying these things around for myself and for my family. So I've laid that all out in Whole Living Foods in the Hood, Part 1, with menus to fit your budget. And then the other book, Natural Beauty, No Products, Love Your Own Hair and Skin, Cruelty-Free and Vegan. You don't have to be vegan. That's totally your choice. But I am sharing how I have used the same foods that I'm eating internally, number one, but also putting them on my face and my hair and my skin. And I really cleared up quite a bit of acne, and I'm not a slave to any kind of products, right? So those are tools and resources that I've laid out, because I'd like to think of, well, if it was me, I wish somebody would have told me this, this, and that, so I wouldn't have to waste money on so much supplements. Those are some of the things, and there's some items, and I added a whole section in the book on items that can really drive your food budget through the roof, right? So those are things, some things you may not be aware of, and it's very easy to get sucked in to spending on more and more products, and then you leave the health food store with a bag and a half, if even that, of small items, but you're not full, and you don't stretch your money out. So you can make it as simple or as extravagant as you like, but I have put some tools online. If you have questions, feel free to leave some comments below, and you can also reach out to me for coaching on all things having to do with fitness, African dance, and African dance class is here now. Is happening, African Dance Soul Fitness, on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. And I'm working on having it streamed because several people are asking me about that. But info at body-culinary.com, info at body-culinary.com is how you can reach me. I do living foods preparation classes for people online. So if you have a computer, you have access, and I work with people's different schedules. Keep in mind, I'm in Central America, so there's a 2-hour difference this time of the year between here, Central America, and Eastern Standard Time in New York. And for the other people in other parts of the state, you just let me know what time zone that you're in so that we can communicate. Because this is really an opportunity to use social media in an effective way, and in a way that benefits us, in a way that is tangible, and it's fun. I really do think more people would change the way they eat and move more if they had support, right? And if it was fun, because then it's a no-brainer, right? And then if it's manageable and sustainable, I'm like, why not? So subscribe to the channel, Body Culinary, and I will see you in the next video. And this Thanksgiving, giving thanks to this body temple challenge is on from now. So you don't want to wait till quote unquote Thanksgiving for those folks that get those days off and celebrate those days off with their family. That's going to be kind of late, right? And running the same cycle over and over every year. So if you get started from now, you're in such a better place. And then you'll feel really confident when you're going to these family gatherings and company gatherings, that you are on point, you're not being divisive or drawing too much attention to yourself, and you can sail right on in. That's several months. And that's a huge chunk of the year, the holiday season, where people put on a whole lot of weight. All right, this is Body Culinary signing off. Create a great day on purpose.